Hello, welcome to dyslexiawayofThinking.co.uk lecture and presentation on self-acceptance with dyslexia by myself, Stephen Milner. As a dyslexic, I personally have been with the ups and downs of dyslexia all my life, and that comes with a lot of difficulties, but a lot of advantages in the future when I learnt what dyslexia is. Now, as a young child, I was told that I had a disability. A disability which meant I couldn't learn. I remember one of my teachers said, "Stephen's slow. Stephen's never really going to achieve much." I would very much argue that now, when I've done international sales and brought in millions of pounds for different companies. Now, so in my honest opinion, dyslexics just need the right frame of mind and the right support behind them, and they can achieve. We see the dyslexics who are not achieving, they're the ones who don't have support and don't have self-acceptance. Now, this lecture will be discussing self-acceptance, how you can get it, and the benefits from it. You may be thinking, what is self-acceptance? Self-acceptance is basically believing in yourself. You may have dyslexia, but this doesn't mean you are thick or stupid. It means you have a different frame of mind, different abilities to think, and you have different abilities to work. Now, I'm a person who believes it is important to be positive and not negative. So I always say dyslexia is a way of thinking rather than a disability. So, i.e., working with your strengths and not with your weaknesses, or learning what your weaknesses are and seeing what strengths you have to overcompensate the weaknesses. So, being positive. This means about learning what dyslexia is, learning who you are, learning what abilities you have, and using those abilities to strengthen your studies, your way of life, things like that. The next two bullet points basically mean it's important. The first one, everyone needs to be the same, and so I believe exactly that, in the sense of we need to be taught, even though having dyslexia, we need to be taught to use our abilities and not taught to be you have a disability. It should be you are taught as everyone else in the sense of you have strengths and you're not stupid, you're not thick. Self-acceptance, you're treated as everyone else, rather than I've seen a number of students who become very lazy in class when they have dyslexia because they have a helper and the helper does all the work for them. And so I believe that even though you might have dyslexia, you can still live a normal life, still study the same way as everyone else. It just means you have to use your strategies to cope. And being dyslexic, you're in a non-dyslexic environment. So it is important to have self-acceptance, that you may be slightly different than everyone else, but you can still learn with everyone else, rather than the negative attitude that people have on dyslexia. Now, how can you get self-acceptance? Self-acceptance is being positive about yourself, understanding that you are not different to anyone else, so you may have difficulties in reading and writing. So it's important to learn the skills, how to read and write. So study skills and skills to learn to spell again. But before you do that, it's important to learn what dyslexia is. Now, you get told on a daily basis that you're dyslexic. Great, what is it? My personal opinion, it's a way of thinking. So I've taught myself my strengths using picture thinking. I use my skills with picture thinking to be able to write reports, plan my work, and talk to people. And so it's important to understand what dyslexia is, but also as a positive, as a way of thinking, rather than a negative, which is a disability. To go back onto the skills, dyslexics have problems with the classroom, working environment, but it isn't because they can't do the work, it's because they don't have the skills. I'm not saying you can't do the work, what I'm saying is it's important when you're in a classroom that teachers teach you how to write notes, so using bullet points, writing reports, understanding the study skills. Once you have these skills, or re-educate on these skills, will you move forward and be a better student, better worker? It's the same in work. You're taught the skills, and once you know the skills, you can move on. You grow. Understanding dyslexia is a positive. Now, I've mentioned that dyslexia is a way of thinking, in my opinion, and this is how I believe it, and therefore I get over the stigmatism of dyslexia being not being able to work, not being able to study. I put a positive to it, and therefore I believe I can. That's understanding dyslexia as a positive. Yes, dyslexia means you're not the norm in the school, but who is the norm? And what does the norm bring you? Being dyslexic, you have other abilities, like being able to, a lot of dyslexics are very artistic, very good at sport. Being positive is better than being negative. Now, if I told you every day you are thick, you are stupid, you become negative about your education, your ability of working. So teaching yourself that, being positive about dyslexia, so not pushing about the negatives of the reading and writing issues, but being positive that you're able to be creative, be able to do good sports. As you can see here, having a positive attitude, a can-do attitude, that is self-acceptance. What are your skills as being a dyslexic? Picture thinking. A lot of dyslexics, and it has been proven, that they think in pictures. And so when you are writing a bullet point, you're describing a picture in your mind. When you're writing a description or a paragraph on paper, you are describing what you're seeing in your head. And this is all about what picture thinking, using these skills, using picture thinking, can you aid your learning ability. When you're thinking of how can I do something, or where is my watch, what do? You use picture thinking to go back in your head to know, oh, that's where I left my watch. So using the picture thinking techniques. Dyslexics can also see the whole picture of a situation. When you're discussing something, you see a whole image in your mind, but what's important is for you to narrow down each image and describe that image, and then bring it back. So in some ways you're describing a spider diagram, or a spider with its legs going off, or an octopus. That's your skills as a dyslexic. When you're doing artistic work, you're drawing a painting, or you're drawing what you see in your head. If you're developing something which is fantasy orientated, or you get my drift. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed my lecture. It's been a bit of a long one, but if you have any questions, please do contact me at stephen@dyslexiawayofthinking.co.uk. You can find me on my Facebook group, What Dyslexia. You could also find me and learn more about dyslexia at dyslexiawayofthinking.co.uk. I hope to hear from you soon. Sorry, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.